What's up, y'all? It's Zach with Living Corporate, and you know what we're doing, right? Every single week, we're having real talk in a corporate world. And we do that how? We do that by having conversations with Black and brown executives, activists, elected officials, public servants, authors, professors, CEOs, entrepreneurs, influencers, celebrities, you know, just having real conversations, trying to, in those conversations, center and amplify the experiences of those on the margins. And I'm really excited because, every week we have an incredible guest. And this week we have Shonnah Hughes. Shonnah Hughes is the global product growth and innovation evangelist at GetFeedback by SurveyMonkey and is a Salesforce MVP. Okay. She is passionate about tech equity, accessibility, equality, and customer experience. Shonnah, welcome to the show. Now, look, I know this is a loaded question. I'm going to ask you anyway. How are you doing?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I'm alive. I think, we got to be grateful that we wake up every morning and take a breath. Um, I'm optimistic, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, what are you optimistic about?
I'm optimistic about our future. I am so excited to see so many young people that are standing up and fighting for social justice, equity, and equality. I am just in awe of their grit, their determination, them being unapologetically who they are. And I'm here for it.
I love it. I love it. First, let's just talk a little bit about your role at GetFeedback. Like, I'm looking at the title, Global Product Growth and Innovation Evangelist. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? Like, what do you do?
It's a mouthful, right? Like, I know everyone always asks me, what do I do? What's interesting or what's funny is that, you know, the people close to me still don't know what it is that I do, which is so funny. My mom thought for a while that I was, drug trafficking because I was traveling so much.
Oh my gosh. You know? Okay. Yeah. I mean, you know what?
Yeah.
I can't knock your mom, I mean.
Right. She's like, I don't know anybody that travels as much as you do. Okay, Mom. Well, with my position, I sit at the intersection of product development and product marketing, right? So my job is all about growing awareness of our product in the Salesforce ecosystem. So whether that be I'm at events, I'm speaking about products and or services, I'm speaking about our commitment to, diversity and inclusion efforts. I am essentially the face of the product, if that helps out a little bit.
It does. It does. And, first of all, and shout out to you.
Thank
You
you.
being the face, because I love your brand, right? I've looked at your LinkedIn picture. I do my little research. I was like, oh snap, I love this. And she's a sister and she got this hair. This is fire. I'm all for it. Cause when we promote this episode, we're going to take, a headshot and that's going to be like the thing. And, I don't know if you, again, like this is not even self-promotion. Maybe it is because it's like our platform. I don't know. The point is that if you go to Living Corporate's website and you look at the grid, like you just see all these black and brown faces. So I love the fact that you said, and each one of those people are people that we've interviewed, right? So like, I just love the fact that you said, you're the face and like you're the main point of engagement. It's also interesting because typically, at least in my experience, it seems like, you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's like, sometimes there are organizations that have they may have a decent number of black folks there, but they're not necessarily touching the register, so to speak. Like they're not the ones necessarily like, pushing the product or like directly interfacing with the market or clients. And so I find this all just very intriguing, right? And continuing forward, it's interesting because GetFeedback, by the nature of its organization, is focused on feedback. So like, can we talk a little bit about this season and how, if at all, the internal culture of GetFeedback has shifted regarding marginalized employees feeling empowered to speak truth to power and leaders being receptive to those uncomfortable points of feedback?
Yeah. Thank you for that question. when I came on board, it was interesting because they had their, ERG set up, and they kind of tapped me and was like, "Hey, I think it'll be great for you to be involved with the ERGs. We know how your reputation is in the community, and we think it'll be a great voice, to have you involved." And I was like, "Sure, let me just try and get my footing here, figure out what's happening." And then in this season, so essentially, I'm coming on board, and then all of this chaos starts happening, right? Or it continues to happen from our perspective, but it starts from
Right.
theirs, if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yep.
Um, so, I'm like, oh wow, this is taking on a lot of responsibility, because I not only have my position, but I also am being asked to take on this additional position. And the leadership has been phenomenal. And when I say, um, they call our leadership team, VP level and above, they call them the Horizon team. And our Horizon team, they have been phenomenal. Now, when you look at our Horizon team, they're not diverse. Like, no one's going to pretend like there's anyone on the Horizon team that looks like you and I, or
Hmm.
any other, underrepresented candidate.
Yeah.
However, they have made a commitment to take on a mantle to essentially make sure that marginalized people at work feel not only valued, but included and also represented. Um, so putting in places policies and procedures. I'm on what we call now the Racial Justice Task Force in our org, where I'm in constant contact with our CEO, with other leaders in our organization, making sure that our hiring practices, our retention practices are matching what we are saying out to the world that we're actually doing in house. So holding them accountable. And they've been 100% open with that internally and also externally. So it's been amazing to see that transformation.
I mean, what would you attribute to that though? Right? Like, what would you attribute that change to?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I believe, you know, the world came to a standstill, the entire world, right? With
Right.
Corona, with the pandemic. People were stuck in place. And then there are Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, then George Floyd. You know, we didn't find
Right.
out about Ahmaud Arbery, you know, until after George Floyd, which, is
Right.
another issue within itself.
Hmm.
However, when we when when you publicly or you broadcast out to the world this murder of this man who is being literally tortured and pleading for his life on camera, and you can see this for 8 minutes and 46 8 minutes, you're sitting here watching someone die. I believe that because the world stopped, and because you're able to see that and you're able to feel that, it gave you space to be able to breathe in what we've been breathing in for centuries.
Right. Right.
And now you can digest that. And now you can be like, oh man, this stuff really happens.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's curious because I think to your earlier language, you used a word that I rarely hear organizations use, or
Hmm.
corporate organizations use, which is justice. So
Hmm.
you talk about justice and you're having these conversations. I'm curious, like when you say justice, does that include organizational justice? Like, does that include if there are situations where, folks, it turns out that they have been harmed in some way?
Hmm.
Does that include also making sure that they're advocated for and like supported, protected?
100%. Now, to say that, the organization does it perfectly and that they aren't going to make any mistakes, you'd be stupid to think that, right?
Sure. Sure.
But for example, we had a BDR, which is a business development representative, that had some racial slurs basically said to him. And I mean, it was the most disgusting and vile language, that you can just imagine and think of from a prospective client. And even though the organization didn't handle it like you or I would, right? Like, um, there's just some things that you know, we will, I would say, immediately react upon,
Sure.
right? But being a public organization, when you think about business, you have to think about there are certain things that you can't say or do, or it opens you up for, additional risk, etc.
Mm-hmm.
However, even though I was upset and didn't agree with how they initially handled the situation, I do believe that they made up for it in how they then progressively handled the situation, all the way from the CEO all the way down to, the individual's, manager. They made him feel like he was protected and like it was going to be, and it was handled, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. I think that's it's like, we talk about it from time to time on Living Corporate, but I do think that that's like the underlying like tension with all of this is that like when it comes to real accountability, just how capitalism is like weaved all through it, right? So
Exactly.
you can't like quote unquote can't. So because you can do a lot of things, but you can't quote unquote say or handle things as they frankly should be handled because there's financial implications to it. But it's like, I don't know. Like I guess I'm waiting for, and I'm sure it happens, right? But I'm waiting for an organization to straight burn a bridge in the name
Me,
of black
me,
equity, right? Like,
bruh, me
like,
too.
because what's the point? Like, are you serious? Like, so you're telling me, okay, so I get it, because you're saying you're gonna miss out on X amount of millions of dollars if I don't, if you don't handle this in a respectable way. But it's like, okay, so but what's my humanity worth, right? Like, and so
exactly.
and I think like that's like my ongoing frustration. I think it also like goes into like, so thankfully in Living Corporate, like, we ask the questions, people answer fairly transparently, and like we push and like we get where we want to go. But I think there's also like there's a fear of organizations even admitting wrong in the name of mitigating litigious risk. And it's like, look, it's like y'all, like, just admit that you're wrong. Like, the thing about it is most people like most people, believe it or not, don't even have the time, energy, or money to pursue a lawsuit. Like, that is so tiring. Like, people really over, like, I don't know, man. Folks just think like black and brown folks out here just can't wait to sue. It's like, I mean, we live in a litigious society, but like, it takes a lot of effort, time. Like, I gotta go find a lawyer. Then I gotta put the money up. Just admit that you were wrong, and then guess what? Y'all make money. Just be willing to handle what you need to handle outside of court. Like 90% of these things get handled anyway, and move on. But like, there's so much mental gymnastics, I think, that happens where folks just don't want to own that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, I 100% agree with you. And that's what you just said is the exact way I felt. And it's actually the exact way that our CEO, Zander Lurie, felt. However, the information didn't actually trickle up to him until, a few days after, right? So it's like he wanted to take immediate action. He wanted something like this to happen. I mean, not wanted something like this to happen.
No,
but
he wanted smoke though. Like, he was fine with.
He was with the stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
He was with it. So unfortunately, like you said, jumping through those hoops of, this is where it's important to make sure that your leadership team, regardless to what level leader they are, team leads, managers, executives, whoever it is, making sure that they understand what is your values and what
Mhm.
you're willing to do about those values, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's interesting because I think this season, right, of like
Hmm.
folks having to sit at home, all of the exacerbated civil unrest due to
Hmm.
state sanctioned and federally sanctioned brutality against Black and brown bodies,
Yeah.
it's forcing folks to focus on even the words. Like you say, like center your values, but it's true. Like no, like really, what are your values? And like, and it's important to like really think about, okay, so what am I actually, because, and it's important to say like what are not my values, right? So
Hmm.
because if you sit back and you say, well, one of my values is people, okay, so then what does that mean, like practically
Hmm.
speaking? Like, because if something is a value of value to you, that means that you're willing to let other things go for
No,
this thing because it's a value, right?
100%.
And so like when you sit back and you say, well, integrity is a value, or
Hmm.
like I said, people is a value, or trust is a value, but then you do things to like directly undermine that, then yo, those are not your values. And it's good actually to like interrogate and really just say like, okay, look, these are not my values. And like,
Right.
but some of that I think also just has to do with like a lot of us are scared to look in the mirror, you know what I mean? And like,
Mm. Yeah.
I can say for me, like, if I know I've been laying up, I ain't really been moving around, I've been eating crazy, I ain't trying to, I scuttle by that mirror, I ain't trying to look.
Right.
But if I've been doing what I need to do, I've been drinking my water, you know what I'm saying, doing my daily
Hmm.
meditations, drinking my tea, lifting some weights from time to time, I'm a stop and stare in the mirror, right? But
Right.
like when you jacked up, it's kind of like, well, I don't want to look. And I
Exactly.
do I do think that extends, right? I think there's something to say, there's something to that, at the global organizational level, and also like you said, like for leaders, like what are you actually standing for? Now you may not like to look yourself in the mirror and say, yo, I don't actually stand for Black people. Like
Mm.
I don't actually care.
Right.
But at least if you're honest with yourself, then you can figure out, I don't like that about myself, and you can work with people to improve.
God, isn't that a word, right? If you're honest with yourself.
Mm,
You know, so many people aren't. We live in a world of, falsities or window drapings and people just being so fake.
mhm, mhm, mhm.
And not, true and real to who they are, what they represent. And even if you are not for Black people, and you say that, like, thank you. I know how to
Right,
deal with you. I know how.
right,
You don't have to like me. Like,
right,
no one on this earth ever said that you had to like me. But you
100%.
do have to respect me. There's a
Have to.
difference. There's
Right.
a difference. But we've gotten so far off path where it's like everyone needs to, you know, love everybody. I was
Right.
like, I don't even love or like everybody in my family. What are you talking about?
Right.
Um, what?
But you're
Uh,
absolutely right. And like it's like this heightened degree of niceties
ex-
and
oof.
like genteel, but it's still harm, right? It's
Mhm.
harmful.
It is.
You think about
Why is it harmful though? Let's talk. Why is that
mm,
harmful?
it's harmful because it's not authentic, and it's harmful
Exactly.
because it's not right. It's not authentic, and it's harmful because you know people, again, you're absolutely right. People conflate niceness with respect,
Yep. Hmm.
and they're not the same. You can calmly and genteelly uh disrespect somebody. You
Exactly.
can, right? Like you think about like Mike Pence. Mike Pence was
Yep.
calmly
Hmm.
disrespecting both of them women,
Right.
calmly, with a
Calm.
with a straight face, with that serial killer stare, just with them N64 graphics on that face, just
Exactly.
looking like a character from GoldenEye, just
Right.
GoldenEye 64, just being as rude
Rude
and,
and
and people
disrespect. Mm,
disrespectful, and
mm.
Kamala over here like, man, I just, I
Oh,
now there was a part in there, and look, now we all off, but that's cool because that's what we do. Okay, so because there was a part where Kamala said, she said, I'm talking,
right.
I'm speaking, And
I'm speaking.
I was triggered because I was like, oh my gosh, because
Oh,
it
my
reminded
mama.
me of
Where's my mama?
yes. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to get slapped in the face. I'm about to
Right.
get pinched. I'm going to get pinched. And so,
See,
but
ours was booed in the mouth. You're gonna get booed in the mouth.
good booed in the mouth. Where are you from? Talking about booed in the mouth. That's funny.
I am actually from Minnesota. Born
Word.
and
Okay.
raised.
You were born and
But
raised in Minnesota. Okay.
yeah, my family is from Illinois. So
Okay. So check this out. Small world. So my family is from Mississippi, but my dad's side moved up to Rock Island, Illinois.
mm,
You know Rock Island around Quad Cities.
yeah. Hmm.
Okay. That sounded like you really kind of, but don't. Okay, that's cool. So
I
then, what
kind of,
about?
but don't. You right.
Okay,
See, black people know black people. Oh my goodness.
and then, hold on, and then you said so Minnesota, born and raised. Okay, so you have to know Woodbury, Minnesota. You have to
Of
know that.
course, yeah.
Okay, so I lived there for a couple of years when I was in middle school.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Small world.
Yeah, that is a small world. I mean, well, we
Um,
all know this state here is as racist as it can get.
listen, ain't it though? And just as
Yeah,
nice.
but it's polite
It's
racism, man.
polite though. Like, excuse me, Mr. N-word, did you move?
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
goodness gracious. Man, I thought Xander's interview was pretty fun. I ain't gonna lie, Xander, you lost. This is
Exactly. Don't worry. I love beating white men.
oh my gosh, that's hilarious, man! I cannot wait. I can't wait for Xander to listen to this interview.
He'll be fine.
No, he'll be great. What I laughed when we kind of went on this path because you said something. You said like, no, Xander wanted it, and I could
Yes.
tell. I could tell that Xander wasn't playing because of the tone and the frame of our conversation.
Hmm.
We're talking about SurveyMonkey's path and
Hmm.
just and y'all's journey and he acknowledged. He said, look, he said, there's been critique, and rightfully so, that it took this moment, this
Hmm.
year, for us to get to this point. But he's like, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere, because we talked about
Exactly.
2021, and he was like, look, like, we're not changing, like
Hmm.
the intention and momentum isn't slowing down. Like, we're going to continue forward, and if you're not interested in
Hmm.
and if you're not interested in that, then you won't work here. And
Right.
I'm curious to know, like, do you feel that? Like, do you feel that level of intentionality that Xander articulated?
I do. I actually do feel that. And, there's already been some changes that he's made that has really highlighted the fact that he is committed to this. So I really commend his leadership and how he's moving. I really do. It's something that you rarely get to see, especially from someone at his level.
You're passionate about a lot of different things.
Hmm.
You're also very vocal, and like, you let it be known that you're a parent.
Hmm.
Um, may I ask, like, what has it been like to work as a parent, and a Black one at that, during a global pandemic and everything else that's going on?
I took 4 weeks off. After Juneteenth, I facilitated like this big celebration, informational sessions, all these things for the entire organization. Um, and then afterwards, like, I was excited for that. I think like that's what kept me going for so long. I was really excited about it. But then after that, I it's like I crashed, to be honest. Like, I crashed. Kids are at home 24/7. I'm at home 24/7. Work isn't slowing down. Like, I don't know if you follow stock markets and how SurveyMonkey is doing. Like,
Yes,
the organization is doing great in this time.
booming.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like, no, it wasn't slowing down for us. And then everything else that's happening on top of that. And I consider myself an empath. Like, I feel things deeply,
Mm.
and I feel things that come off of, the world as in its energies and things of that nature. And I couldn't properly grieve for my community because
Mm.
so many things were happening at once. People were losing their jobs. People were getting sick and dying. Kids were, being at home without a parent because their parent had to work. They didn't have food. They were being abused. Like, all of these things just start piling up on each other. And I literally felt like I was like I don't know, like I was in a black hole
Mm.
and I couldn't get out. I couldn't breathe. So I had to take some time for myself and focus on, okay, we're here. What can I do now? How can I help? And that's what kind of got me out of that.
Yeah, you know, I really, as a new parent,
Mm-hmm.
and as a black one at that, like
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. At this point, folks who listen to Live in Corporate regularly know, because I talk about Emery all the time. She's 6 months old.
I love that name, Emery.
Yeah, she's great.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think about that too. Like you just said, like taking the time to grieve. Like it's privilege. It's a privilege to be able to take
Exactly.
time off, because like I don't know, there's different industries, right? Like I'm in a very like I'm in client services, right, as a
Mm-hmm.
consultant. So I have time. Like I took, I'm recording this on the 9th of October, and I took this week off
Mm.
just to give myself like, you know,
Some air.
some air.
Yeah.
But frankly, like, I've had my own trauma that I've dealt with in and outside of the workplace, not related to any of this, from
Mm-hmm.
last year, that I'm still like
Dealing.
dealing with and like navigating out of, like, not even to mention all the things that have happened this year, right? And so like,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it's worth another conversation about, grieving properly, like, or grieving
Whew.
effectively, because like that's work. Like the more I think about it, it's like, man, I have so
Mm-hmm.
much grieving to, like, I look at it as like almost like laundry. Like you just like,
Yes.
just sitting over there, like I have so much grieving
Mm-hmm.
to do. And like it's really something that needs to be engaged, because if it isn't, then you just, you sit back and you think,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't need to. It's like, no, you need to
You
engage
need
this.
to. Yeah. We so number one, we know that I think we're all the way off topic, but we are we aren't given the time nor space to grieve
Right.
as Black people, period. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity to properly grieve, ever. And
Mm.
even though I took that time off, I took it off from work. I'm still a mother. I
Right.
still have, my nonprofit. I still have all of these millions of things. I'm a caregiver to my parents. Like there's millions of things that goes on behind the scenes that when people see you, they're like, "Oh, she's so put together, this and that." But you don't know how much it took for me to get to this point.
Right.
Um,
Or what
and
it takes for me to stay here.
stay there. Exactly. And as Black people, we don't get the time to grieve. And then if we are grieving, we're looked at as weak, right? And
Mhm.
that's from the outside community, but that's even from our own community as well.
No, you're right. You're right. And I think so. It's interesting. So Culture Amp, another
Mm-hmm.
company, they talk about, one of the things that they're rolling out is like mental health services and extra
Mm-hmm.
time, to
Yep.
like help with their marginalized employees. And I think about that more and more often. Is like, man, like if you were to probably put a dollar figure on, so it's two ways you look at it, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
as a business, like you could put a dollar figure on how much it would cost to give all that time off, and like all the like different, the care, like the
Mm-hmm.
healthcare. But then you could also look at it from the perspective of the cost of not giving that to your employees, the
Exactly.
cost of the strain and wear and tear on your
Mm-hmm. The burnout
your
that's going to
the
happen.
the burnout. That's the word, the
Mm-hmm.
burnout that's going to happen. And I really do hope, as
Mm-hmm.
HR organizations and like D&I champions and leaders, as like we
Mm-hmm.
continue forward and we look at 2021, that like that we really do a hard reassessment of
Mm-hmm.
benefits, and like,
Yep.
because that's really important, because it's not just about giving me the hours too. It's about making sure
Mm-mm.
that like when I have those, like when I take that time off, that like when I come back, I'm not like, and I'm not looking at a mountain of work.
Work.
Because time off, a lot of folks don't take time off because they're like, I'll take time off, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna just be, that much
Swamp.
more busy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be swamped.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, dang, that's okay. So that means there's some organizational, like
Issues.
systemic challenge
Yeah.
issues that like because there's some failures there from like just like a business optimization perspective. If when you leave and you come back, it's almost like you just like stopped working, as opposed to you literally took a healthy break. Like, and it's time that you've
Break,
earned, right?
exactly. And I
We
think
have been on.
leadership, that's where the problems in leadership lies. There's so many people in leadership positions or management positions that do not understand how to operationalize the policies that they have in place. So if you have an employee that needs to take time off, you should automatically have a process in place where that employee has a backup, where that employee, the next employee knows how to do that employee's job and they're able to take over, and you can divide that across the team or whatnot. But the lack of understanding of how to operationalize these things are are what hurts organizations. Now, when it comes to SurveyMonkey, I do have to say that they've been amazing. So, as an organization in the US, we have what's called flexible PTO, or no, responsible PTO. So, essentially, unlimited PTO as long as you're being responsible, right? So, you can take off as much time as you need. Most people don't. Like you said, they don't because either they enjoy their work or they want to make sure that the work that they're doing is not left by the wayside, and they want to make sure that they are being a good contributor to their organization. But SurveyMonkey was like, hey, take your time off. Take the time off. Take whatever you need, whatever it is. Zander said this, and to all the employees, like, this is coming from me. If your manager has anything to say about it, they have to answer to me. Take the time. If you need the time, take it. And
Yeah.
for all of our Black employees, they actually had an organization that deals with trauma and loss and grief and things like that come into our ERG group. And we've had multiple sessions with them on how to navigate and deal with these things and talk about them.
See, that's fire, right?
Yeah.
Like, see, that's the difference to me between like real leadership in the space and sending out an
Hmm.
email, giving empty platitudes. Like, that's really cool. So I know also we talked about at the top of your bio,
Hmm.
that you're passionate about equity and accessibility from a
Yeah.
tech perspective. Like, how do you believe this season, if at all, has exacerbated certain levels of inaccessibility and inequity in tech?
I mean, so many people have been set back. Um, I haven't seen as much as an impact on like tech jobs that I've seen on a lot of other positions, right? Um, a lot of the organizations that I work with, they're still hiring like crazy. However, people who are underrepresented, they can't access those opportunities
Hmm.
because their sources of support are gone. Their sources of, like, let's even say mentorship or coaching, those are gone. A lot of people don't have access to reliable internet. They don't have a computer that they can hop on. A lot of the things that they were doing, it was physical. You had to be in person to do them. You had to
Yeah.
go to where it was. Like, they don't have the access in their homes, and their homes might not even be the safest places for them to be. When you think about how this
Mhm.
pandemic has affected our communities, it's not just about the pandemic. I'm so tired of hearing about how many people have died. Like, yes, understood. But let's talk about the people that are still living that need us.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right. I was talking to my wife about that very thing and said, well, okay, so 200 over 210,000 people have died. I was talking to Candace about. I said, Candace, it's crazy because first of all, it's just an obscenely just
Seeing,
obscene number.
yes,
It's ridiculous. And then I thought about, okay, each one of those people had a family and like
exactly.
friends. So think about like how many people, like millions of people were connected.
Hmm.
Like, not to mention the 7 million that have been, who have been tested positive, but
Exactly.
like all the people that like missed their friend, their father, their husband, their wife, their daughter, their cousin, right? Their next door neighbor, like they're like, it's just an insane amount of loss. It's really not calculable, the loss
Exactly.
of. So I hear you.
Hmm.
Sitting at where you sit at Get Feedback, which is part of SurveyMonkey, what are you most anxious about? And then conversely, what are you most excited about looking at the next 18 months?
What am I most anxious about? I would have to say losing momentum. People always say, this is the bright, shiny thing that's happening right now. And then, people are going to move on. It's kind of that question that you had to Zander, right? What's going to happen in 2021? Are you going to lose momentum? That's what makes me nervous is that people, once the world starts opening back up, people are going to completely forget, or completely move on to the next thing, especially if they're not authentic about what they want to do with what's happening, social justice and those issues. But I am optimistic about those leaders that are committed and that are authentic, and that are creating programs, that are putting money behind it, because we know progress follows the money, right? They're putting money behind their words and their actions, to make sure it's something that's sustainable for, years to come.
Now, this has been a dope conversation. Before I let you get up out of here, you have any parting words or shout outs or both?
um, I just want to give a shout out to all the Black people who are, um, making stuff happen,
Mm.
and just really, living your authentic self and lifting while you rise. I can't thank you enough, because it's because of you all that I'm here, and it's going to be because of all of us that the next generation is able to be here as well. So thank you.
Come on now. All right. All right. We appreciate you. And look, y'all know what we're doing. This is every single week. We're having these conversations. Real talk in the corporate world. We're centered amplifying Black and brown folks at work. Don't ask us where we at, okay? Because we all over Beyonce's internet. You just type in living corporate, okay? Living corporate, and we pop up. All right. Check us out on our website, living-corporate.com. Check us out on Instagram at Living Corporate, Twitter at Living Corporate _pod. And everywhere else. Okay, we're everywhere this podcast stream. We got a whole web series, all these different shows that we're doing, focused on various types and experiences within the diaspora, and the brown diaspora as well. Because what's up, brown people? We see you too. But anyway, all that being said, we have had Shonnah Hughes. You've been listening to her. Shonnah Hughes, as a reminder, is the global product growth and innovation evangelist at GetFeedback by SurveyMonkey, and is a Salesforce MVP. Till next time, y'all. Peace.
Living Corporate is a podcast by Living Corporate LLC. Our logo was designed by David Dawkins. Our theme music was produced by Ken Brown. Additional music production by Antoine Franklin from Musical Elevation. Post-production is handled by Jeremy Jackson. Got a topic suggestion? Email us at livingcorporatepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us online on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and living-corporate.com. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned.